If you're not paying attention to Nick Fuentes, you're not paying attention to anything. And this is the part where we're supposed to say, now we don't agree with everything he says. We don't agree with everything he says in any kind of racist or anti-Semitic tropes or ideas. That goes without saying. I'm tired of having to be forced to give this proviso, this disclaimer. I'm not talking about what he is saying in terms of his sensitivity towards Judaism. No, I don't agree with that. But what he says about Trump and what he says about the America First and all that stuff, that's true. And there are people who say some wonderful things about Jewish people and Christians, and they don't say anything worth a damn when it comes politically. So there's a chance and there's an obligation on our part to sever, just like in contract law. When there's a part of the contract that's no good, you sever, you remove it. And then you try to make the whole thing make sense. So you can expurgate and bowdlerize parts of what he has said. That's a problem. But Nick Fuentes has become the absolute lightning rod. Nobody in the conservative establishment or the conservative world or whatever it is can ignore or ever saw coming. He was there. It's like all of a sudden, pow. And the folks who were the stars, the cool kids, they're freaking out because he's breaking every rule and he's popular because people are suggesting or rather seeing that he is sincere with what he's saying. This is a young, very unapologetic firebrand, brilliant young man who has managed to simultaneously and concomitantly attract a fiercely loyal following. And I mean, all of a sudden, now granted he was there, but for some reason, pow, a fiercely loyal following. And he's been able also to send shockwaves through the old guard of right-wing politics and the cool kids. Not because he's conforming to their safe, pre-approved narratives and method and message. No, not at all. On the contrary, that's not it at all. Believe me when I'm telling you this, and you know this. But precisely because he refuses to play by the rules. And while the media and political class paint him as a dangerous, unhinged, extremist, racist, xenophobic, whatever it is, the reality is far more complex. Yes, he said some stupid things in the past. Gee, imagine that. Imagine. Wow. Only listen to people who've never said stupid things. He's 26 years old. Trump has said stupid things. Everybody. If you haven't said anything stupid, you're not speaking. And he said some really hateful things. But who hasn't in this age of constant microphones and gotcha clips? But that selective outrage says more about his enemies than it does about him. Because what he truly represents is a direct challenge to the gatekeepers who want to control the terms of debate on the right. And that's why, and this is critical, and that's why the attacks are so relentless and so vehement, so coordinated, and so over the top, as they try to freeze him in the public mind as nothing more than a deranged racist, a deranged anti-Semite, when in truth, his core mission is about reclaiming a genuine American first vision from those who have watered it down into a kind of a marketable, donor-friendly slogan. His clashes with Turning Point's Charlie Kirk, who, I mean, if you don't know what that dude is about, you're not paying attention. But those were not the ravings of a madman, but substantive ideological confrontations. Questionings, my friend, why an organization claiming to speak for conservative youth pushes mass immigration, embraces the rainbow agenda, and remains in a lockstep in support of foreign aid and to Israel, while America's own borders crumble. And if you haven't also paid attention to what's going on, there is a real serious look about what does America first really mean, and America only, and foreign aid. I mean, I've never heard anybody speak so directly about this. And it was precisely because those questions hit nerves that his supporters, the so-called groypers, those folks were met with bans and smears and security escorts, not reasoned answers, showing that the so-called movement leaders, fear open debate. Oh, no, more than they fear the left. And when CPAC shut him out entirely, that said it all. refusing even the possibility of his voice entering the mainstream conversion. He's not cool. He's not the cool kids. Oh, it's so clear to me, and it's clear to you too. He didn't fade away, but built AFPAC, his own America First Political Action Committee. You know, AFPAC, APAC, CPAC. Got to pay attention to these. He was drawing speakers who were willing to be seen in the same room as someone the establishment had already blacklisted. A move, if you think about it, that forced a choice for conservatives. Stand with the same poll-tested crowd or risk career suicide by aligning with the insurgents. And while that decision cost people like Michelle Malkin her platform at Young America's Foundation, remember her? It also proved the point that the conservative big tent is only open to those donors that are approved of. His battles with Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson further highlight the double standard. You see, Candace Owens, who expected an easy meeting of the minds, found herself rattled when Nick Fuentes challenged her assumptions live, creating visible tension. And Carlson, who once prided himself on platforming controversial right-wing voices, resorted to dismissing him as that flippant, angry, gay kid thing or what have you. And by the way, whatever you go for, there's a lot of references to sexuality. Milo references Candace's family, and according to Nick Fuentes, and Nick Fuentes is, they call him an incel, and this one. Look, enough with that. If you haven't learned by now, sexuality, a religion, or what, it doesn't matter. We don't care about that unless you can show some kind of hypocrisy. Then again, if you want to show hypocrisy, stand in line. But the way they dodge him, the way they try to sidestep Nick Fuentes' criticisms entirely. Oh, no. And when Fuentes fired back by calling Carlson a Fed, that was beautiful. It wasn't just juvenescent name calling. It was a shot across the bow of the media class that even the most independent conservative stars have their boundaries, and that their lines they will not cross, lest they jeopardize their contracts and ad buys or social capital. He has identified the phonies. And what makes Nick Fuentes so dangerous to these people is not that he's wrong about everything. If he were, they could simply ignore him. It's that he's often right about the failures of the so-called movement, and they know that. And that makes him a mirror they can't stand to look into. A mirror that turns into like a funhouse mirror, okay? Because it reflects their compromises, their betrayals, and their calculated silences. And yes, the media play its part by cherry-picking his worst moments and stripping them of context. Yes, I agree. Looping old jokes or inflammatory comments into every profile so the casual observer is inoculated against ever taking him seriously. And that's the goal. Yet his message and his voice and this exact tactic only proves his point that the narrative managers have more interest in destroying dissenters like him on their own side than confronting the actual enemies of conservative values. That's what this is. And while detractors hammer endlessly on what he said years ago and what he mentioned, they conveniently forget that political history is littered with leaders and commentators, left, right, and center, who said dumb, reckless, or offensive things and were allowed to grow past them. Yet Fuentes is denied that grace because his presence right now, as we speak, in this moment, is too threatening to the status quo. His style is deliberately provocative. He'll tell you, if you haven't noticed. Of course, it's true. But provocation has always been the lifeblood of political change. And the reason he's freaking everybody out is because he's forcing the GOP and conservative media to define what they really stand for. Are they the party of America first? Are they the party of America first nationalism? Are they willing to take unpopular but necessary positions on immigration and trade and foreign entanglements? Or are they a controlled opposition party, curated to never upset the donor base? And the more they try to excommunicate him, the more they confirm to his followers that he's over the target. And you only take flack when you're over the target. Because in politics, I'm telling you, you only are paid attention to when you're saying something that's true, when you're over the target. Something worth hitting. And the establishment's overreaction, bans and labels and hit pieces and guilt by association, which is even worse, almost as bad, to how they tried to shut him down with bank accounts and the feds. I mean, this guy, they came after him. They wanted to just everything from PayPal or bank accounts and social media platforms. They just wanted him silenced because he said something that scared them. It all reeks of fear and dread, not moral certainty, which is why, despite the blacklisting from CPAC and TPUSA and all the others, and every major conservative media outlet, he remains a fixture in the broader movement and the broader conversation. Proof that influence doesn't always flow from official channels, but it can be built in parallel structures outside their control. His critics claim he's too toxic for serious politics. But that's exactly what they said about other outsiders, because they reshaped and reconfigured the landscape. And whether one agrees with every word he says or not, the undeniable fact is that he's exposing now how much of conservatism has become a kind of a brand rather than a cause, a performative platform rather than a fight. And in that sense, he's doing something the polished influencers and think tank pundits never will, forcing people to ask uncomfortable questions about the future of the right, the sincerity of its leadership, and the true depth of his commitment to the principles it claims to champion. Oh my God. Which is all precisely why they're working overtime to define him before he defines them. And why all the noise and all the outrage and all the dire warnings should be seen not as proof of his unworthiness, but as confirmation that, love him or hate him, Nick Fuentes has already succeeded in making himself the most disruptive, talked about young figure in the movement. And the harder they push him out, the more obvious it becomes that the real threat he poses is not to democracy, as they claim, but to the comfortable monopoly the establishment has enjoyed over what counts as acceptable right-wing thought. Dismiss him at your peril. Dismiss him not. Watch carefully what he has to say. I do. He's articulate, well-pronounced, well-spoken, well-thought, cogent, absolutely laser in his presentation. So, my friends, what do you think? Tell me what you think. Listen to him carefully. Listen to his words. And I ask you also, please, to like this video, subscribe to the channel. I'm telling you, 80% of the people who watch us don't subscribe. That's our ignition switch to the HOV lane of influence, because we're spreading the word too. I don't have a name for what I am. America First, I don't know, you name it. All I want to do is I want to spread the truth. I want to, spread the way it be. Now, my friends, I've got some questions for you, and I ask you, I beseech, I entreat, I implore, I ask, I beg you to comment as you see fit.